My revenge story, when the past returns. My name is Olivia, I'm 37 years old, and I work as a chief accountant at a large logistics company in London. My life seemed stable, predictable, even a bit boring, until everything turned upside down one rainy March evening. The beginning of the end. Andrew and I had been together for 12 years. 12 years that I thought were happy, filled with shared plans, dreams of having children, trips to the Scottish Highlands every autumn. He worked for an IT company, I worked in finance. We were a typical London middle-class couple, mortgage on a 2-bedroom flat in Canary Wharf, car loan, annual holidays in Turkey or Egypt. But the last 2 years, something changed. Andrew became cold, distant. His phone always lay face down, work delays became longer and longer, and his gaze more and more absent. I knew. Of course I knew. A woman always senses when her husband is no longer with her, even if his body still sleeps beside her every night. When he finally told me about the divorce, I didn't cry. I just sat on our grey IKEA sofa and watched him pack his things into a suitcase. I've met someone else, he said, not looking me in the eyes. She's different. She understands me. Classic story, right? A man at 38 decides he deserves true love, leaving behind the wife who gave him the best years of her life. Quick divorce. Our divorce went quickly, too quickly, if I'm being honest. Andrew was in a hurry. He agreed to all my conditions. The flat remained mine, he took the car, we had practically no joint savings, everything went to mortgage payments. The lawyer was surprised by his compliance. Usually men fight for every square meter, he noted during one of our meetings. But I understood why. Andrew was rushing to his new love, to his true happiness. He didn't need our shared belongings, they would only remind him of the past he was so eager to forget. 3 weeks after filing the papers, we were officially divorced. I remember that day, a warm April morning when I left the registry office with the divorce stamp in my passport. The feeling was strange. On one hand, relief that this prolonged agony was finally over, on the other, emptiness. 12 years of my life seemed erased with a rubber. Shocking news. If someone had told me that just a week after the divorce Andrew would marry again, I wouldn't have believed it. But that's exactly what happened. I learned the news from my friend Emma, who still communicated with some of our mutual acquaintances. "Liv, are you sitting down?" Her voice on the phone was concerned. "Yes, what happened?" "Andrew got married. Yesterday." I went numb. A week. Just 1 week after we officially divorced, he was already standing at the altar with another woman. "Who is she?" My question sounded calmer than I felt inside. "I don't know exactly. Some Victoria. They registered quickly, without a big wedding." "But, Liv, photos are already on Instagram. Want me to send you the link?" I didn't want to. God, how I didn't want to look at my ex-husband's happy face with another woman. But I couldn't resist. "Send it." Meeting with the past. 5 minutes later I was already looking at wedding photos of Andrew and Victoria. He was in a stylish grey suit, she in a snow-white dress. Typical photos near Westminster Abbey, on Tower Bridge, in the old city. Smiling faces, loving looks, hashtags #forever #love #happiness. But when I enlarged the photo to see his new wife's face, my heart stopped. This couldn't be true. I knew this woman. Or rather, I knew the girl she once was. Vicky Caldwell. Victoria Caldwell from our school. From my 2007 graduation class. I grabbed my old album with school photos, which was stored somewhere in the attic, and feverishly began flipping through the pages. There she was, Vicky Caldwell, year 13. The girl who always sat at the back desk, trying to become invisible. But that Vicky and this glamorous Victoria in the photo, they were like two different people. Vicky then. To understand the whole story, I need to go back 20 years, to our London comprehensive school, Riverside Secondary. Vicky Caldwell came to us in year 12. She was quiet, a grey mouse, a girl nobody noticed. Excess weight, cheap clothes from Primark, severe acne on her face, greasy hair that was always pulled into a tight ponytail. Her family lived in a council flat in Hackney, her father worked at a factory, her mother as a cleaner in an office. I can't say I was cruel to her. I just ignored her. Like most others. Vicky was that girl who wasn't invited to birthday parties, whom nobody wanted to sit with at the same desk, who was never chosen for teams in PE. But there were those who actively bullied her. Lydia Summers and her gang. They were the queens of the school, beautiful, wealthy, popular. And they made Vicky their favorite target. I remember one episode particularly vividly. It was spring of year 13. We were preparing for the prom, and all the girls were discussing dresses, hairstyles, makeup. Vicky sat apart, as always, but I saw how she looked longingly at our discussions. Lydia noticed this. "And you, Caldwell, will you go to prom?" she asked loudly, and the whole class went silent. Vicky blushed. "Well, maybe." "Oh, interesting." Lydia came closer, her voice changed from curiosity to mockery. "And what will you wear? A costume from your cleaner mum?" The class laughed. I smiled too, though inside I felt uncomfortable. Vicky lowered her head, and I saw a drop fall on her notebook. She was crying, trying to hide it. That day she left school early. And she never came to prom. Vicky now, looking at the wedding photos, I saw a completely different person. Victoria, who smiled at the camera lens, was stunningly beautiful. A sculpted figure, long shiny chestnut-colored hair, flawless skin, perfect facial features. The nose, thin and straight, lips, full and sensual, eyes, large and expressive thanks to masterful makeup. If not for the album in my hands, I would never have recognized that Vicky Caldwell from school in her. Plastic surgery. Without a doubt. Rhinoplasty, blepharoplasty, lip fillers, possibly liposuction. I wasn't an expert, but even to my unprofessional eye it was obvious that Victoria had undergone serious transformation. And suddenly it dawned on me. Andrew didn't just meet new love. He met a woman who made herself perfect. A woman who, perhaps, had spent her whole life dreaming of revenge on those who didn't notice her, who laughed at her. I started digging deeper. Investigation. The next few days I devoted to learning everything about the new Mrs. Victoria Bennett. She took Andrew's surname. Social media is a real treasure trove of information if you know where to look. Victoria's Instagram was public, and I spent hours studying her photos, going back in time. The oldest posts dated back to 2018. In them, Vicky was already beautiful, but not as perfect as now. You could trace the gradual transformation, first the nose, then the lips, facelift, probably something with the breasts. The profile description read, psychologist, owner of Transformation Beauty Salon, helping women find their true selves. The irony of fate. A girl who changed herself externally so much that she became unrecognizable, now helps others find their true selves. I found her salon's website. Indeed, it was a successful business in central London, offering not only cosmetic procedures, but also psychological support, image consultations, even seminars on raising self-esteem. Judging by everything, Victoria had become a successful businesswoman. Her Instagram was full of photos from expensive restaurants, trips to Dubai and the Maldives, designer bags and shoes. And then I found what made me go cold. Accidental meeting or careful plan? Digging even deeper, I came across Victoria's post dated September of last year. In the photo she was at some IT conference, and the description read, interesting to expand horizons. Getting to know new business spheres always inspires. #IT conference, #networking, #development September last year. That's when Andrew started changing. That's when he became cold, distant. I remembered he went to that conference. Talked about it over dinner, said it was important for his career, that there were interesting speakers there. Could it be a coincidence? I started searching further. And found more proof, a photo from the same conference, where in the background, slightly blurred but recognizable, stood Andrew. They met there. At that conference. But here's the question that gave me no peace. Was this an accidental meeting? Or did Victoria purposefully seek out someone from her past? I continued digging and found the answer to that question. Connection to the past. In July of the same year, 2 months before the conference, Victoria published a post on her Instagram that most people would just scroll past. It was a photo of an old school album with the caption, "Sometimes it's useful to look at the past to appreciate how far you've come. #transformation, #past, #future." The photo showed a spread from our graduation album. Our class with her. And although the photo was taken so that most faces couldn't be seen, I recognized several people. Recognized myself too. This post had only a few likes, no comments. It seemed nobody paid attention to it. But I did. Because I understood, Victoria remembered. She hadn't forgotten those years of humiliation, ignoring, loneliness. I started checking the profiles of our other classmates. And discovered an interesting thing. Victoria was subscribed to most of them. Not all, but many. Including me. She was watching us. Our lives. Who became what, who married whom, who achieved success and who didn't. And suddenly I felt uneasy. My place in this story. I started analyzing. Why Andrew specifically? Of all the husbands of our classmates and their circle, why did she choose him? Andrew wasn't the richest. Wasn't the most successful. Wasn't the most handsome. But he was mine. And then I remembered. In our graduation album there was a page couples of our class. There were photos of students who were dating. Andrew wasn't from my class, he studied in a parallel one, but we started dating in year 13, and our photo ended up on that page. I feverishly opened my old album and found that page. There it was, our photo with Andrew, young, happy, in love. Caption: Olivia and Andrew, the most beautiful couple of the graduation class. The most beautiful couple of the graduation class. The same wording that Lydia Summers wrote when she bullied Vicky. You'll never be part of the most beautiful couple, Caldwell. Unless it's with a scarecrow. Could this be a coincidence? Or did Victoria really plan her revenge so meticulously? I realized I had to find out the truth. Face to face. Finding Victoria was easy, her salon's address was on the website. Making an appointment for a consultation even easier. I chose a time when, judging by Instagram, she personally received clients. Entering the transformation salon on a warm May morning, I didn't know what to expect. The interior was stylish, minimalist, lots of white, gold accents, soft chairs, the scent of expensive candles in the air. The receptionist, a young girl with flawless makeup, smiled welcomingly. Good morning. Are you here for Victoria? Yes. Please, one moment. A couple of minutes later, she emerged from the office. Victoria. In person, she was even more stunning than in photos. Elegant white blouse, dark trousers, heels, neat makeup, expensive jewelry. Our gazes met. And I saw something change in her eyes. First surprise, then recognition, and then, a smile. Cold, controlled smile. Olivia Bennett, she said, and there wasn't a drop of warmth in her voice. Sorry, Olivia Marie, correct? She knew my middle name. Of course she did. Not anymore, I replied. Thompson again. Andrew and I divorced. Oh, her smile became wider. Yes, I heard. How unfortunate. A lie. She wasn't sorry at all. The conversation, we went to her office, a spacious room with a large window through which sunlight poured. On the walls hung diplomas and certificates, on the desk a photo from the wedding. Victoria pointed me to a chair opposite her desk and sat down, folding her hands in front of her. So, Olivia, how can I help you? Any complexes you want to overcome? Perhaps your appearance needs correction after a stressful situation. Her tone was professional, but I heard mockery in every word. I decided to speak directly. I know who you are, Vicky. A pause. She didn't flinch, didn't change in the face. Just looked at me with her large brown eyes. Of course you do. We studied in the same class. I know what you did. You purposefully met Andrew. You planned this. Victoria leaned back in her chair and laughed. Really laughed, and it was an unexpectedly pleasant, melodious laugh. God, Olivia. Were you always this dramatic? Or is this new? Answer. She fell silent, her face became serious. Fine. You want the truth? You'll get the truth. Yes, I knew who Andrew was. Yes, I remembered he was your boyfriend back in school. And yes, when I saw him at that conference, I approached him first. My heart was pounding. But, she continued, I didn't plan to fall in love with him. And he didn't plan to fall in love with me. It just happened. We talked, we had chemistry, we started dating. He made the decision to divorce you himself. Because you manipulated him. No, her voice became harsh. Because he was unhappy with you. He told me himself. Told me your marriage had burned out long ago, that you became cold, focusing only on work and bills. That he felt lonely. Her words struck like slaps. Because there was a grain of truth in them. Yes, in recent years I really worked a lot. Yes, perhaps I didn't give Andrew enough attention. But why him specifically? My question sounded quiet, almost like a whisper. Victoria stood up and walked to the window, looking at the street below. Want to hear something terrible, Olivia? I remember every day of those years. Every mockery, every condescending look, every instance of being ignored. I remember how you all looked at me as if I was nothing. Invisible. She turned, and in her eyes I saw pain, old, deep pain that hadn't disappeared even after all the surgeries and success. You know what hurt the most? Not that Lydia and her gang actively bullied me, but that people like you just stayed silent. Watched and did nothing. You were witnesses, and your silence hurt even more than the insults. Guilt. I felt sharp, burning guilt. Vicky, I'm sorry. Too late, she interrupted. I don't need your apologies. I haven't needed them for 20 years. Then why did you do this? Why take my husband? She smiled, and that smile was sad. I didn't take him. He came himself. But if you want to know, yes, there was a part of me that felt satisfaction that the husband of the most beautiful couple of the graduation class chose me. The ugly duckling who became a swan. It was like closing a gestalt, you understand? Unexpected turn. I should have left. Should have turned around and walked out of that salon, out of that life, out of this painful conversation. But I couldn't. Are you happy with him? I asked. Victoria sat down again and looked at me for a long time before answering. Honestly, I don't know. At first, yes, there was excitement, passion. But now, sometimes I look at him and think, what next? He's a good person, Olivia. But maybe I chose him not quite for the right reasons. And maybe he chose me not quite for the right reasons. Her honesty shocked me. Does he know that we studied together? Yes. I told him a month after we started dating. He was a bit surprised, but didn't attach much importance to it. For him, I'm just Victoria, a successful woman he met at a conference. He doesn't remember me from school. Why would he? Back then I was nobody. And now you're using him for revenge. She thought about it. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just trying to prove to myself that I'm worthy of love. That I can be desired. That my past doesn't define my future. We sat in silence for a few minutes. Two women whose lives intertwined in the strangest way. What now? I finally asked. What do you mean? Are you going to tell him the truth? That this was all part of some game? Victoria shook her head. No. Because it wasn't a game. Yes, at first there was a bit of revenge, satisfaction that I could. But then real feelings appeared. Complicated, complex, but real. And I'm not going to destroy everything because of the past. My decision, I left that salon a different person. Not angry, not upset, but somehow enlightened. The following weeks I thought a lot. About myself, about Andrew, about Vicky. About how our actions in youth can have consequences we don't even suspect. I could have told Andrew everything. Could have opened his eyes to the fact that his perfect wife actually planned meeting him. But why? It would have destroyed his life, and, honestly, he deserved a chance to be happy, even if not with me. Vicky deserved a chance too. Yes, her motives were ambiguous, but she had the right to try to build a new life, far from the girl she was. Instead, I did something else. New chapter 1 started seeing a psychologist. Not at Vicky's salon, of course, but with a good specialist who helped me look at my life from a different angle. I realized that my marriage with Andrew really burned out long before Vicky appeared. We became strangers who lived together out of inertia, out of fear of change. I also realized that I bear responsibility for the girl I was in school. I wasn't an active bully, but my silence, my indifferent attitude to someone else's pain, that was also a choice. And it was the wrong choice. I found several other people from our graduation class who also suffered from bullying. Contacted them, apologized for my silence back then. Not everyone accepted my apologies, and that was their right. But I did what I had to do. I also started volunteering in an anti-bullying program. Told my story to teenagers, explained that silence is also participation in violence. Final meeting 6 months after our first conversation, I saw Victoria again. It was at a charity event organized by my company. She came with Andrew. Seeing me, Andrew was slightly embarrassed, but Victoria was calm. We exchanged polite nods. Later that evening, when Andrew went to the bar, Victoria approached me. "How are you?" she asked. "Better. Much better. And you?" she thought. "You know, Andrew and I are seeing a marriage counselor. Trying to build something real, not based on past traumas or illusions." "That's good. Thank you," she suddenly said. "For what?" "For not telling him. You could have destroyed everything, but you didn't." I smiled. "Everyone deserves a second chance, Vicky. You, me, and even Andrew." She nodded, and for the first time I saw genuine warmth in her eyes. "You know, sometimes I think about that Vicky from school, and I feel sorry for her. She wanted so badly to be accepted, noticed. She changed everything about herself, trying to become worthy of love. But maybe she was worthy even then. Just nobody gave her a chance to see it." Her words touched me to the core. Maybe we all made mistakes. And maybe the most important thing is to learn to forgive ourselves, others. Epilogue: today I'm 37 years old. I still work as a chief accountant, but now I'm also a volunteer in an anti-bullying program. I'm still single, but for the first time in many years I feel that it's okay. That I can be a complete, happy person without a husband beside me. Andrew and Victoria are still together. Recently saw on Instagram that they're expecting a baby. I genuinely was happy for them. Sometimes I think about that story and understand, this wasn't classic revenge. This was an attempt by a broken person to find wholeness, a way to prove her worth to herself. And although the methods were questionable, I can't judge Vicky. She went through hell that I can't even imagine. And most importantly, this story changed me. Taught me not to remain indifferent to someone else's pain. Taught me that every action of ours, even inaction, has consequences. The past can't be changed, but the future can. And that's the most valuable lesson I took from this whole tangled, painful, but ultimately healing story. Because true revenge isn't destroying someone else's life. True revenge is building your own life so full and meaningful that past offenses lose power over you. And both of us, Vicky and I, on our different paths, finally learned to do this. The end.